What am I going to do?
It's quiet, I think we'll start. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the City Council of University City, Texas. It happens to be Tuesday, April 16th, 2024. I'll call this meeting now to order at 6:30 p.m. and call for a quorum check, please.
Mayor President Goolsby.
Here.
Councilmember Buck.
Here.
Councilmember Bulman.
Here.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Councilmember Najarian.
Here.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Here.
Quorum is present, we shall proceed. I'll lead us in the invocation this evening and the pledges, so would everyone please stand. Heavenly Father, tonight this council will be making some critical decisions that will affect our city for many years to come. I ask that you give us the wisdom and understanding to look beyond the present and into the future. We have a vibrant city whose potential is endless. Many of the items we will consider tonight will hopefully help magnify that vibrance. I also ask that you bless the candidates preparing for the upcoming election and help us thank them for their willingness to serve. And on a very, very personal note, I am especially thankful to you for allowing me to serve our city for over 24 years. Your guidance and counsel have been invaluable to me. You've always been there for me, for this council, and for the fantastically dedicated staff. Together, we have made a difference. And finally, as always, we ask that you protect our military men and women and our first responders who put their lives on the line every day for our country and our city. And that sound of freedom we heard during the recent air show has truly made us proud to be Americans. God bless the USA. And we ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor
the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening. We really appreciate it for this meeting in April. And gosh, it's hard to believe that we're almost past a third of the way through the year. It's mind-boggling. Okay. Anyway, we've got a very interesting and informative and full agenda this evening. So the first item on the agenda are staff reports and the discussion items. So I'll just ask that the city manager has something.
No reports this evening, sir.
Okay, and staff the same as well? Okay, so then, yeah, we're going to check for citizens be heard. I think some of you signed up. We're going to get the sheet now so that I can call you up. Just take a second. We welcome everybody. We're glad to have you here this evening. Again, with this full agenda, lots of interesting things on the agenda. So I'm glad that you're going to be joining us. Okay, very good. All right. So the next item on the agenda is citizens to be heard, and you can read on the screens. That's a time for public to address council on issues or concerns that they may have. We'll have no specific discussion about those items, but we really appreciate your input, and we're glad that you want to get involved. Individually, 3 persons have signed up this evening, and I'll call you up in the order that you have signed in. Janice, and what's your last name, Janice?
Hughes.
Hughes, okay, please come forward and address council.
I'm going to take half my 3 minutes getting there.
We won't start until you get up there now.
And yes, in case anybody wonders, my oncologist does do my hair. I'm here, and I did not know what you were going to say to start with, but it kind of fits in with that. I actually had just one thing, kind of had a couple things blended in, didn't know they were going to be separated. So it may not make any sense, but that's, I appreciate what you said, because I've been in Universal City since 1981, but just very recently got involved with maybe how Universal City becomes Universal City. And I really appreciate, whether I agree with you or not, I appreciate all the time you all take, all the care you take, all the research you do. It's amazing. I'm an intelligent person, but I couldn't possibly know everything about all the things you have to learn about. So I wanted to say thank you for that. And I think one of the things that's made me a little sad is I know you're all people of goodwill and we're all people of goodwill, but I've seen some real divisions here with all the elections and all the things going on, and that makes me sad. I think that we are, as adults, we're allowed to have our own opinions, and hopefully as adults who are dedicated to helping our city be better, we should be able to be us, working through our differences for the good of all instead of us and them, and just not even speaking to each other thoroughly and completely, and actually having a good, honest discussion. And I just have a couple, I'm not used to a cane, so I'm not going to do a twirling act, it's okay. I have a couple things from different centuries that I thought still remained appropriate. Of course, getting into this century is sometimes tough for me. This is from Frank Zappa. Politics is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex, which has some humor and not some humor. Marcus Aurelius, who was a long time ago, says it's the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone. What harms us is to persist in self-deceit and ignorance. And the other one, I just have one more. And this is from Thomas Merton. When I criticize the system, they think I criticize them, and that is of course because they fully accept the system and identify themselves with it. Thank you for all of you, folks.
Thank you. Okay. Next individual this evening is Mr. Bernard Rubal.
Now we have a little visual tonight, Mr. Mayor, council members, and city staff members. Basically, I listened to things the last couple months. One of them had to deal with tax revenue, sales tax revenue from the golf course. It was stated with apparently from staff input that the sales tax from the golf course, the revenue the city gets is $1.5 million. Well, I don't think that's exactly right. The earned revenue from the golf course fiscal year 2023 was $2.5 million. 2% of that value is about $51,000. Okay. How much money did we put into the golf course from the venue tax, the board, and hotel tax? Well, that turned out to be $1.8 million. So I have this little visual for us just to understand exactly what the magnitude of the sales tax is, since it actually came up from a prior council member two's discussion. So let's consider this. 100% of the $51,000 in sales tax from the golf course from earned income. Okay, so far so good. Great. Now let's now consider how much sales tax that represents relative to the venue tax that's gone into the golf course, the billboard fee, and also the hotel tax. Okay, that's 1.8 million. So essentially, 1.8 million going in, and this is what the percentage that the city is getting out in sales tax. So essentially, less than 3% of the tax revenue going into the golf course is coming out as sales tax revenue. Okay, so essentially, we can do that one more time here, and just say, okay, sales tax going in, or taxes going in, tax burden going in, the sales tax from the golf course coming out, less than 3%. Okay, so basically, as a resident, we don't want to be left holding the bag, and you have to look at the management policies since council in 2005 said, hey, goodness gracious, the golf course wasn't being managed right, let's change. Well, since 2005 to now, okay, the golf course is paid for. And there have been, for the city manager, about $2 million in unreported expenses. It's time to look at the management of the golf course again. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vaughan, appreciate it. Next individual this evening is Mr. Jeff Flynn.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Jeff Lynn. I live at 818 Cherry Glade in Converse. I had the privilege of covering many of you for many years when I worked with the Northeast Herald newspaper, which I no longer do. I'm now in Bernie, but that's another story altogether. I just want to come here and say goodbye to John Williams. It's been 20, I think I started in 2000, so John's been around since 2000. So from the time of West back then, and I think Joe Mediger was your predecessor, and John Williams. You know, it's good to cover. That's one thing I miss about this area is the Metrocom is filled with mayors who have great intentions for their cities, whether it's Tom Daly and Selma, Mayor Edwards, Henry Edwards, and Lyman's mayor, Mary Dennis. They all have a heart for their city, and John has a heart here for his city. I always treated him with respect, and I got it back, with mutual respect. Very professional in all my approaches. Sometimes he didn't like to see me coming, but a lot of mayors didn't. But that was part of the game. I have to speak to them on good times and bad times. There's times when you have to put your feelings aside and speak because you're being spoken to. So John and I have a relationship outside of my work and his council. He is Northeast Lakeview College. His adjunct professorship. Every semester I'd go out and speak to his kids about the media, about being a journalist, and share some of my thoughts and some of my experiences, which I really enjoyed that. That was tremendous. But of course, COVID brought that to an end, so that's another story on itself. And then a third time I can use all of it. John and I are Big Ten fans. He is a Wisconsin fan. I'm an Ohio State fan. I've got the better of him for the past decade, so that's neither here nor there. But John, I want to thank you.
That's true.
He's got a few meetings left, so I don't know if I'll be here again when you're mayor, but I just want to say thank you for all your time served.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, those are the only individuals that signed up this evening to address council and citizens. But would anybody else like to address council that would? Yes, sir, please come on up.
Hello, group. I'm Billy Hill, 9023 Phoenix Avenue, and y'all have all seen me finally in the last year or two where I kind of pay attention to what's going on, take advantage of everybody else doing the job. So I too appreciate and want to compliment and thank y'all for all of the stuff y'all have to put up with, much less the time, as Janet says, you have to spend in order to try to figure out what's the best thing for a universal city, us as a group. one lay observation might be, and I understand it's all about the laws, state laws and rules and policy and all that, but I'm often questioning why, and Phil brought it up last time, like the fence permit, in some of these debates that we have in this short time frame that y'all do, it just seems to me, regardless of the policy, change that, where y'all can get together and try to get the simple answers to the simple questions and at least be able to start doing the job of y'all being learned in this. And then when you come to do it in front of us, you display your view, your perception, and state your case. And that, of course, we agree to disagree. So I sometimes feel for y'all because as you're up here trying to find out all the answers, obviously from staff, then from your each individual perspective and time, and we're out here and we're pushing y'all and we're complaining because it's 10 o'clock at night. What can y'all do in the new future, in the new council, whoever that's going to be? How can you address that to where our perception out here is pushing on the line? And Bernie and anybody, I mean, this ain't Johnny Carson. We don't need a platform for us to be able to someone to see our face and speak our piece. If we got something, we need to do it before it gets to this stage. And I try to do better as a resident to do that, but trying to impress upon y'all what my perspective is, what my little lay version is, and I don't know, it just sounds like that would make better sense to me. So, for that being said, thank you for, I checked my guns at the door, folks. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Real quick, Mayor, I can't pass up this opportunity. I only need 3 minutes. But it's about to get hot in Texas, and so at the brewery, we're trying to build this pergola out front. And it's tough building things when you're dealing with city codes, right? Especially when it's just me, the guy trying to figure it out and not pay somebody a bunch of money to get an answer. And so I was able to email Jacqueline at the city, and she coordinated between 3 people to give me the answers I needed so we could build it to meet code in the best economical way. And I think that's so valuable. And every interaction I've had in this city has been amazing. And I just want to thank y'all for your hard work. And I want to get that in Bear County. And my sister and brother breweries, it's a lot tougher. So y'all are very business friendly and helpful. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Keep it up if you want, guys. Okay, all right, thank you very much. Again, we really appreciate your involvement. It's very important to us on council to be able to get the input that we receive from you all. Trust me, it does not fall on deaf ears at all. So thank you very much for participating. Move on now to our next item, which are announcements. And we'll start out with the city managers.
Short tonight, no announcements, sir.
Okay. Next is my turn, but I'm going to turn it over to Ashton Bulman, Councilmember Bulman, for a second, because she has a special recognition that she would like to make. So before I vote, I would like to have Ashton take over.
Perfect. So I want to thank Carmen Flynn for all her volunteer work at the UC Library. Carmen puts together so many of the fun events at the library, like the Crafty Crew and Tasty Table. She puts her heart and soul into these events. Not only are they well attended, but everyone who goes feels welcome. She is good about greeting everyone, making them feel welcome, and explaining how things work. She's such a bright light in this community, and I wanted to make sure that we thank her as a city. Flowers die, but our appreciation for you never does. So just like these Lego flowers that will go on forever, we hope you feel our appreciation forever. So. She wants a snag photo. So.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Oh, of course.
Okay, thank you.
I had the opportunity to sit in on many of those I don't know what you call them, a dining extravaganza, I think is what I can say, I know that, but I call it a dining extravaganza because all of the food that they bring in, there is no possible way we could try everything. We try. It's very difficult, so I want to echo that, so thank you very much.
And I won't be able to invite you for the Bridgerton Tea Party because I'm already booked. Within 2 weeks, you're completely full.
Isn't that amazing?
And so
They're
Kim,
gonna have a
I'll
Bridgerton tea
invite
party
you,
where
but
they can all
I'm
dress
just
up as they
happy.
wish to do.
Yeah.
Very good. Carmen, congratulations.
Thank you.
We love you, and we're
Thank
glad what you do with our community.
Thank
We
you.
love it very much. Okay, all right, so I have just a couple of items. Do you have anything else, Ashley?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay,
Thank
all
you, appreciate it.
Just a couple items. I want to read this letter to you. I really want to read this letter. It says, Honorable John Williams, dear Mary Williams, I'm a 9th grade student from Calvary Chapel Christian Academy. I'm writing to you to thank you for the amount of police watching out for my neighborhood's safety. They are always making sure people don't go straight through stop signs. My older brother recently started driving as well. Knowing that there are police around helps me not feel like I'm going to die every time. Chief, I wanted you to do that. So nice Stellenberg. And this is such a beautiful little letter, thanking our police for what they do on a daily basis. And I wanted you to, I'll give this to you.
I'll share with the staff.
Yeah,
Our pleasure.
I have one other quick item, is that our dryer was malfunctioning a couple of weeks ago. In fact, it was the day before Good Friday. And so my wife had done the wash, but we couldn't dry, okay? So I had this big pile of stuff. And she says, well, we need to get these dried. I said, oh, okay. Well, what do? She said, well, there's a laundromat. And I went, well, okay. So I went to Easy Wash, brought in this basket of clothes, had absolutely no clue what to do, 0 clue. And there was a wonderful lady in the back who works there, said, you look like you're lost. And I said, yes, ma'am. I don't know what to do. And she said, well, what are you getting? I said, oh, I need to dry these clothes. Okay, well, does it cost money? And she said, well, yeah. Okay, and I said, oh, how much? And she said, well, you just get these quarters. And I said, I don't have any quarters. And she said, you know what? It's Good Friday, and I call her the Good Samaritan on Good Friday. And she gave me 4 quarters, stuck them in the machine for me, so I didn't have to do that. And then watched me dry the clothes. And I just want to say that's a shout out to people who really are proud of what they do in their business. We're just proud to have them in Universal City. So that's my testimony for the evening, and I'll leave it at that. So I will go down to Mr. Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to address some of the comments from tonight. I fully agree with everything that everybody said about the folks that are sitting up here on the dais with me. I've had significant interactions with everybody up here, as well as with all the candidates that are running for this seat, for one of these seats in May. And I concur that while we may not always have the same conclusions or think that it's the best way to do something, I know that every single person sitting up here and every single one of the candidates is running because they want the best for the city. Again, we might have differing opinions about something. That's fine. That's the way things get done. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it is a clown show. And sometimes it is somewhat embarrassing that we have to take so long to do what we do. But my personal opinion is that I'm humbled by the trust that has been placed in me by the residents of Universal City, that I was sent up here to do the best job that I can, to take that time to make myself smart about the issues, to come to the best conclusion that I believe is in the interest of the residents of the Universal City, because I'm one of them. I am one of those residents, so everything that we do up here is going to impact me just like it impacts you. So to everybody who has placed their trust in me, thank you, and I agree. I wish it could be a little bit less divisive. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Is this his last full meeting? He's got another one, so I can harass him a little bit later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take your time.
I'm good, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
I'll table my harassment.
Okay, everything's good. Okay, Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We've got some big presentations coming out that I know a lot of us have been working on and really hoping to hear more about and how things are structured. So I'm really excited about that and just to get into the meats of it and have Universal City move on and reach its best potential down the line with the ideas that come out tonight. Just real quickly, we went to, just went to last Thursday to the Northeast Partnership meeting. We had Congresswoman Donna Campbell as a speaker, which she just brought us a lot of good information, what's going on in Austin. And also, well, not all of it was good, but most of it was good, so we're happy to hear about that. And Representative, I always say that it's Kemple, but it's Kemple. I always want to say Kemple, I don't know why. But Representative Kemple came out and a couple of people that will be wanting to run for a spot to represent us in Austin down the road came, so we got to meet a few people and got to ask a few questions, and I was really happy about that. And basically finding out what they were asking, what they could do to help out cities, and I didn't have enough time to have the discussions that I wanted to, but I've got a few things out there. Also, one tomorrow going to be going to the Judson JISD. The bond meeting is tomorrow morning, and so we can next meeting bring up update of what's going on with all our bond money, where it is, where it's going, and how far we under budget we are. So far, all the information I've been able to bring you, we've been on time and under budget. So hopefully we'll hear more about that tomorrow. And again, just thank you all for coming out and all of you representing citizenship of Universal City. It's always a pleasure to be able to see a full room and the interest that's so badly needed here in Universal City. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody coming out tonight, and thank you for everybody who spoke. There's so many different opinions. There's, as many people that are in the room, there's differences in opinions. And up here, the same happens, but we all just have to work together and really believe that we're doing what's best for our community now and into the future, and really kind of be thoughtful about those decisions and not just be open to ideas and changes. So thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. And just because there are so many people here, I'm going to do a quick reminder of the Heroes Camp that we have coming in June. It's June 3rd through the 7th. It's targeted to 12 to 14-year-olds. There will be posting on social media shortly for applications. If you have a 12 to 14-year-old, or if you know of somebody in that age range, please let them know. We have a great camp. They'll get to interact with our police, fire, and emergency services and learn some really awesome skills, CPR, stop the bleed. It will be a great experience, and they will go home, and the parents and their families will be so appreciative of what they've come home with. So please spread the word. It's a great experience, and it's all free. Lunch is provided, snacks are provided. They can eat like nobody I've seen. So thank you.
Mr. Vaughan.
Thank you, Mayor. So Mr. Hill's point, I'm hoping the council message board will allow the council to really flesh some of these things out before the meeting, and that will help with the meeting times. Another note, after studying tabs D through H, I think there's probably at least an appearance of conflict of interest with my property. So I'll be listening tonight, but I won't be discussing or voting on tabs D through H. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's move on now. Next, we're going to have some public hearings in 2 minutes here now. And the procedure is this. City staff will give a little presentation. They're going to have one of the parties interested in comments. And then I'll open the public hearing, and you'll have a chance to discuss it, your opinions about it. And then when I close the public hearing, there's actually going to be 3 of them related to the reunion development coming up in a minute. And then 3 of them related to Wright Rowhomes. So the procedure is the public hearings will take place, and then after that, then a little farther on our meeting, we will all be able to address that as council members. okay? And so that's the decision-making process. The public hearing process is to let staff make the presentation and then hear from you all how you feel about some of these issues, some of these the directives, directions that we would like to be able to go or consider to be able to go in the future. So the first one's under union development. It's tabs A, B, and C. One's a future land use plan, one's a zone change, and one's a preliminary final plan. So they're all related, but they have to be operated. They have to be actually addressed separately because of the way it's set up and the way the law is. So, Ms. Turner, let me turn it over to you before I open the public hearing.
Thank you. Michael's preparing to do a presentation, just reminding council that for the first three tabs under public hearing, they're all for the same project. So future land use plan, zone change, and then a planned unit development.
All right, thank you. Well, first I just wanted to let everyone know who might be interested that HTO received their certificate of occupancy today. That's good news. All right, so moving on to the topic at hand, maybe, as we get the PowerPoint pulled up. Just bear with me for a moment. Okay, so as Ms. Turner mentioned, we are here to discuss the reunion project. And so we've been working on this for the last about 2.5 years, as you're aware. And we originally put out an RFP for the project site. Let's get to that. And so as you're aware, it's a 43-acre property right off of Loop 1604, has multiple access points. It's a very viable property. Loop 1604, Kitty Hawk Road, Universal City Boulevard, and Bird Boulevard. And it is a mixed-use plan unit development. But let's step back for a moment. About a year ago, we engaged the retail coach to conduct a market analysis to determine whether or not this product or this site was good for the uses that we had in mind. And so what the market analysis found was that there are very strong traffic counts because of Loop 1604 and Kitty Hawk. Strong population density within 1 mile and within 3 miles. And the average household income is very strong at $85,000 a year. Recommendations of the market analysis were that because it's such a large site, that there be one developer to control or be a master developer for the overall site. And also because it's a vacant property, and there isn't an infrastructure already built, that there would be some sort of public participation. That the entire site be master planned, and that it be zoned as a planned unit development or mixed use. We do not have a mixed use classification within our zoning code. The closest we have is a planned unit development district. So the highest and best uses for this site are multiple. We have retail and restaurants, which would more than likely front 1604. Multi-family, a hotel, and possibly general office and medical office. And that brings us to the site plan. And so this is the site plan. It is broken up into 8 different lots. And again, this is a 43-acre tract. And so 8 different lots. We have 2, numbers 7 and 8, that are open space. And one of the things that we emphasize is that we wanted the open space to be active, not passive open space. And both of these meet that criteria. So the different types of possible uses, as with all the previous PUDs that you've seen over the last couple of years, we have established Exhibit D, which identifies the potential uses for the different lots within the PUD. Other bulk requirements like setbacks, height, architectural requirements, things of that nature, those are all identified within your packet in Exhibit D. And so most importantly for folks is what's going to go there. So let's look at track 1, which is backing up to the backside of Walmart and the conservation easement. And so possibly from a residential standpoint, Rowhomes. And again, I have to emphasize, as we always do, is that the market will dictate the uses. And so Rowhomes are a possible use, daycare, indoor sports and recreation, maybe top golf, I'm not sure. Office research, retail, and possibly flex warehousing. Then moving over to Lots 2 and 3, this is where we see the apartments and a hotel. And it's a combination, more than likely, it's called an apartel, a newer concept within the last 5 to 10 years. And so it would be a combination of apartments and hotel. Apartments, and total units would be 300 for these 2 sites combined. And for lot 4, if it is senior housing, about 150 units. That would be active adult, not assisted living. Hotels a possibility, and then outdoor entertainment. Again, the market will dictate. Fronting 1604, lot 5, which is I think 2.3 acres. Retail, indoor sports and recreation, and restaurants, bar, and possibly a hotel. And pretty much the same on lot 6, retail, indoor sports and rec, and restaurants and bars. So one of the things that we've emphasized with this developer that we have with the other developers that have come through is pedestrian connectivity. It's very important. We want the folks who live and shop there to be able to walk, ride their bike to other parts of that area. Most importantly, we'd like them to be able to get to Kitty Hawk, and so they can get to HEB, they can get to Walmart, they can get to Chipotle, whatever other shopping is over there. And then also connects to UC Boulevard as well as Bird and the PUD that's online across from Bird that was approved last year, which is a mixed-use PUD as well. So as you see, the pink or red, maroon, whatever that color is, we're really excited about this because this will help establish that pedestrian connectivity. These are 10-foot wide shared use paths. And so they're on both sides of the proposed rights of way. That is huge. And then internally, we have the blue, and those are 4-foot sidewalks. These are residential design images. These are representative elevations, we call them. And this is for the commercial components and the open space. So as we mentioned, this is a vacant property, and we have to build the infrastructure. We have to build the roadway system. And so we've been working with the developer, as well as our consultant engineer, Kimley Horn, to devise and basically design the roadway. You see it's broken into 2 segments. You have the blue and you have the red. And what we have devised are 2 street sections. One is a 70-foot or 72-foot wide right-of-way. And that will allow for, as I mentioned, the 2 10-foot wide shared use paths on each side of the road, and then a 6.5-foot wide parkway that will allow for landscaping, curb and gutter, and then you have your 12-foot wide drive lanes, as well as a 14-foot wide shared center lane. The other segment is segment B, and this is the one that was blue and backs up to the existing pond. And this one is slightly larger because we wanted to accommodate potential parallel parking for access to that pond. Again, this is the same as the previous one, except it provides a 9-foot wide parallel parking strip. So obviously, this is going to generate traffic. And the way in which we identify whether or not there's enough capacity for the projected traffic is through level of service, and that's what LOS is. And so anything that is D or above is considered acceptable. And so what I'll do is I'll just go through the different primary intersections to identify what Kimley Horn has projected as the level of service for the traffic that is generated when there is full build out. This is that full build out. So we project that there will be about 10,600 trips per day. AADT is annual average daily trips. And then we also break that down from AM peak and PM peak because those are the most heavily trafficked times throughout the day where you have the most delays. And so for the AM peak, there's a projection of 732 trips, which is cars going through. Then in PM, we have 1,037. And so at the intersection of Kitty Hawk and the Walmart entrance, the anticipated LOS, C and C for AM and PM. Get past the roundabout, that'll be A and A. Then up at Universal City Boulevard, A and B. Down at 1604, LOS B and LOS C. And the third, level of service A, level of service A. So the conclusion, it's more than acceptable. That is excellent. So we have a lot of capacity on this roadway network. So just to the north, adjacent to UC Boulevard and the new roadway system, we have a conceptual park that Randy, Public Works, has been working on. Again, this is conceptual, but we'd like to develop this park to provide an amenity to the Reunion PUD, but also the surrounding area. And as you can see, it will provide a walking path around the pond, pickleball courts possibly, parking, and some exercise equipment. This is the floodplain image, and basically the stormwater sheets off into two directions, one towards the Conservation Creek that flows into the existing pond and then trickles further downstream, and then also some of the rainfall sheets towards 1604. So this is the proposed phasing. As you can see, multifamily is the first phase, but then again, the market will dictate. But generally, developers will tell you that rooftops bring retail. And so it makes sense that multifamily would be the first component to be constructed. Phase 2 is the second phase of the multifamily. Phase 3 is the commercial component, which is lot 6. And then phase 4 is that potential senior housing, possibly commercial. And then the flexible one, which they're unsure of, is the one that is directly behind Walmart. The market will determine that. So when will this be ready to go? Well, the roadway, the infrastructure will be ready to go based on our current timeline in December of 2025, which is just over, a little over a year and a half from now. So it's going to happen pretty quickly if this is approved. So tonight, the applicant is requesting a FLUP amendment, a rezoning to PUD 2024-101 district, approval of the master development agreement, and approval of both purchase and sale agreements. Again, the EDC owns 10 acres that is fronting 1604, and then the city owns 33 acres behind that. And so as part of this, there's a purchase and sale agreement for each of those tracts. I will mention that we did send out 30 notices as required by state. We did receive 2 objections from 2 different businesses in North Lake. The reasons they provided were that it would increase traffic and apartments bring crime. And with that, that's the end of the presentation.
Okay, do you have any union want to offer anything right now before I open up the public hearing?
Introduce.
Sure. So we have Reunion here, 2 partners within Reunion Development. We have Zach and Marshall. Mitchell. See, I wanted to say Marshall. Sorry, Mitchell. But we have they're just going to introduce themselves. We have a quick little PowerPoint that shows who they are. Let me pull up that PowerPoint real quick.
You want to run it? Click it?
Sure, I'll click it.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to do business in Universal City.
I'm sorry, Zach, they're indicating in the back rows that they cannot hear you. If you could speak a little bit louder. Is that a red light or a green light on that?
It shows a green light.
Yep, you're really going to have to speak louder.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. Ken, Michael, Randy, thanks for your time over the last 2 years. My name is Zach Wolf. This is Mitchell Ward. We own and operate Live Oak Interests. We are a multifamily focused development firm. We do two things. We build market rate apartments and we build market rate active adult or senior apartments. For business, we've got experience across all product types, retail, industrial, land and office. So that's a little bit about Live Oak. I'll say about the rest of our team, Michael. So not here this evening. We have Mark Wolf, who serves as an advisor to Live Oak in two capacities. He helps us with our design efforts and construction management. Mark's a retired architect. Has been in the business for 40 years. He's been part of significant projects across Texas, the Sun Belt, and in the Mountain West. And then externally, Michael will go to the next slide. So for this project, we've already fielded our consultant team. Up here on the slides, we've got our architects, our civil and mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, landscape guys, interiors. We selected our general contractor for the multi-family component, as well as our property manager. So these are all folks that we've worked with previously or are local, and they're the subject matter expert that we think is best suited for this project. So that would be Faith Dawson, and then Galaxy Builders is a local San Antonio-based general contractor. Next slide, please. So our current portfolio includes these 5 projects. We've completed 3 active adult projects. There are the 3 projects represented on the top of the slide. We've got one that we completed on the north side of Houston in Magnolia, which is basically the Woodlands. One in Rockwall, which is on the east side of Dallas, and then one in Cross Creek, which is on the west side of Houston. We are wrapping up lease up on a market rate apartment project in downtown Louisville, and in about 60 days we'll start a market rate apartment project in Mooresville, North Carolina, which is about 20 minutes north of Charlotte. That's a little bit about us. We're very excited to get started on this project. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you all. We've enjoyed working with the team. We've enjoyed being in this room tonight and seeing the community and hearing the things they have to say about you, Mayor. That's a place that we want to do business, and we hope that we can do it for a long time. We're happy to answer questions if that's appropriate right now.
We'll pick that up later. Right now, it's just the public hearing allows now the citizens to have some input for us as well. So thanks for coming in that again, Scott. Is that what you got so far?
Yes.
Okay, so it is 7:16. I'll open up the public hearing now. And there's three portions to this. There's a future land use plan, a zoning change, and a land use development. They're all related to the same project. So, but we have to with the way it's set up statewide, we have to do each one has to be done separate. Okay, so I'll open it up at A, B, and C. A is PC 602, ZC 253. That's the future land use plan. And then B, PC 603, Z 2054 is the zone change. PC 604, ZC 255 is the preliminary planned use development final plan. So those are the 3 that we'll be looking at now. So let me open it up. It's 16, so if anyone would like to address council on these matters. Later on, council will have the opportunity to discuss as well. But right now, this is input time from you guys. Anybody? I think, oh yes, I do have, Miss, 2 people that have already spoken and citizens to be heard. Did you want to speak again? Obviously you can. Anybody is welcome. Please come on up, yes. Ma'am, you were first to sign up, so please come on up. And then Mr. Rubal afterwards.
That could have saved you time if I did it all in one trip. and show you how new I am. I didn't even say good evening, Mr. Mayor, and all you fine folks. So good evening. I have just some general concerns, and I understand that I'm way more than a day late. I come into this meeting assuming this is already a done deal. I know you technically have no comment, but I assume it's a done deal. So I'm way more than a day late, and I'm sure I'm way more than $1 short. But I just have some general concerns that maybe can be taken into account as this moves forward, or if it moves forward. One is the police and fire. If we don't in the plan have plans to make those departments grow as this area does, obviously there are concerns with that concentrated amount of people with crime or fires and just things that people need police and fire for, ambulances, whatever. So I have a concern with that. I do have a concern with, surprisingly, the gentleman said it wouldn't be passive land, it would be active land. And if passive land is just land that's just sitting there kind of in its native state, I don't have trouble with that. I think that's a good thing. I don't think every parcel of land has to have a specified purpose. And the other thing, of course, my biggest thing is water. If we are constantly under water restrictions now, that says to me we don't have enough water. So if we don't have enough water for 20,000 people, well, how are we going to have enough water for 21,000 people and all the businesses and the potential guests at the hotels? So, and if we don't have a water problem, why are we always under restriction? Those are just kind of general things. And going along with my theme of I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember this. I look around and some of you probably are. And if you aren't old enough to remember this, I suggest you find out. It's a song that Joni Mitchell did.
The new $1.99 Sonic Crispy Tender Wraps are here for a limited time in bold flavors like a
Paradise, put up a parking lot. With a big hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Oh, it always seems to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone. You pay paradise, put up a parking lot. All the trees, put in a tree museum. And they charge the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone. You pay paradise, put up a parking lot.
I won't make you listen to all the rest of the verses.
I remember that song.
And at the time, I never knew I'd be using it, and years later. But anyhow, I understand the reasons behind this. I understand people want progress and progress, but I hope in bringing progress, I hope some basics aren't forgotten, and that we don't look at it 20 years from now and say, oh my gosh, what were we thinking? That it's done thoughtfully, that it's done with the end in mind, but not just the end in mind, but with the day and the immediacy also in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
And that's my last time.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Will.
Not as fancy as Jan. Basically, the concern is loss of commercial zoning. Essentially, Mike did a little switcheroo there. I'm used to the what's on the zoning map published on the city website where it talks about C3s, C4s, C5s, C2s, and so whenever you put Rs up there, it's a little confusing. But the point of having commercial areas, of course, is to reduce property taxes for the residents. That's one of the primary reasons. In addition to having the utilities of having those retail and other places there, that's really one of the principal reasons. So I'm a little concerned concerned that there's a loss of commercial zoned areas and what's going to be done here tonight. I applaud the work of the staff and listeners on this project. That being said, I'm also concerned about how much of the tax burden will be added to the city. Is this going to be economic development, infrastructure development, or not? The third thing has to do with the area around North Lake itself. It was designated very, very recently as an acre park in the parks plan. I know that's obviously been changed. So we just added to add acreage for park plan, but essentially that's a natural asset, and it was a little hard to understand what Mike presented exactly what that's going to look like. So basically, again, I applaud all for their work on this. I'm concerned about being a little bit more landlocked by decision to do things like this, but that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. As I say, after we have the public hearings later on, then council will have an opportunity to discuss it as well. We may ask questions of staff, we may ask questions of the union. We've heard from two of you, so we appreciate your input. Okay, so at this time, I'll close the public hearing at 7:25 related to the reunion development, and we'll move on to our next public hearing, which is related to the Wright Rowhomes. And this is, again, it's a future land use plan, a zone change, and a land use development. So, preliminary development plan. So I'll let city staff discuss this again, then I'll open up the public hearing for everybody's further input if they're interested in letting us know how this is. So, Michael, there you go.
Thank you, Mayor. So let me pull up a couple of items. Oh, come on. Okay, so the project that we have before you for consideration is in the aviation. And so very excited to bring this to you because at the outset, we just want to emphasize why the master plan and taking the time to go through all the orchestrations, hire consultants, work with staff and the community to generate the master plan for that specific area was worthwhile. And this project here tonight is the reason why. Because about 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Okay, it was right after the master plan was approved that the applicant, Richard Ramadi, came into our office and he indicated that he wanted to build in the aviation district. He'd done so before, and I talked to him about the aviation district master plan and said, you know, what we would really like to see is in the area you're talking about is if you can consolidate a number of lots, then you could build row homes. It's not easy because there's multiple lot owners, but if you're able to do the hard work and put those lots together, it might be worthwhile for you and the city to be able to build some row homes. And so after 3.5 years of doing that footwork, Richard came back to us and said, hey, I consolidated 5 lots and I want to build the row homes. He understood the vision, he worked with staff because we had that plan in place. So this is that plan coming to fruition. And so let me briefly describe it for you. It's 5 lots in the aviation district. It's on the corner of Bowie and East Wright. And so right now it's vacant property. There was a single family home at the corner that was torn down recently, so it's just vacant property right now. And just to give you an idea of exactly where it's at, there's a house in between these 5 lots, and then there's some older row homes that were built, I think, in the 70s or 80s, and those are now called the Solitude. They were previously called Carolina. So these will be on the same block as that development. And so what this is 0.7 acres approximately. He's proposing 11 units. Again, new urbanism, bring the homes closer to the street to get that pedestrian feel. And that allows for rear loading, so you don't have garages in the front, they're in the back. And the key thing that we talked to him about is that, we don't want to create a parking problem. And so each of these units will have an enclosed two-car garage, 440 square feet, and the driveway for each of the units will be long enough or deep enough to accommodate two F-150s and not have to hang out into the 24-foot wide drive aisle. In addition to that, there's some common open space in the back. Now, we had to lose a little bit of open space to accommodate heavy trucks, meaning waste management, fire department, and other things of that nature. And so it took away from some of the common open space, but it's going to be an area for the residents of that complex to utilize. And again, rear loading, the entrance will be off of Bowie, and the units will be closer to the street. There's a requirement in the architectural requirement section of Exhibit D1 that says that it has to be 25% masonry or a combination of masonry product, which is a good thing. We would like to have as high quality a product as we can, understanding that this is the first one in. And so he's going to do what he can, and we very much appreciate that. Let me go to the other slide, which shows the actual units and gives you an architectural elevation. The units are pretty large, 3-bedroom, 2-story. There's a max height of 35 feet, and all the bulk requirements are in that Exhibit D. And that's really all I have for you. The applicant is here to give you some more details.
Anyone would like to speak? Please come on forward.
Thank you. Right here?
You can stand there, that's fine.
My name's Richard Ramundi, and I live here, grew up here, I'm still here, and as Michael said a few years ago, I bought into what he was trying to do. Like I said, I live here, I want to be the best that I can for my son, which is also a partner of mine in this project. So he's 17, and he's already involved. But it's going to be a good product, nice inside, 2.5 bathrooms, like Michael was saying, the garages, the rear entry, grassy area in the back, picnic tables for residents only, and landscaping. We're going to have all the sprinkler systems and stuff like that in there. So my son will be keeping it up, and it'll be a family investment, if you will. So, and I've been in construction all my life, so all my MEP contractors are the same that I've used and known for 20 years or more. Same with the framings and the foundation guys. All of us have been working together for years. So I have no concerns as far as quality of construction at all. So the fronts will be 11 faces. 4 of them will be stucco. Another 4 to 6 will be a limestone. Some of them will have a different design, different feature to keep it so it doesn't look the same. It's going to have a different face on each one. And then 2 will be brick. And then, the front porch area, the front door area, we're trying to get like one for a gable and one for, just different looks. So it won't be just a boom, just all this one big building that looks the same. I hope I answered any of your questions.
We'll be able to address that with you.
I'm new at this, so be patient.
That's okay.
Right?
That's cool. That's cool. Very good. Thank you. All right. So it is now 7:33, and I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing now related to items D, E, and F, which is the D being the future land use plan, E being the zone change, and F being the permanent land use development plan. So just like we did for Union, I'll open it up now if anybody would like to address council on what you heard here this evening in the presentation. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Kim Iglehart, 7036 Garden Meadow Drive. I heard 2 people on this presentation talk about rear entry garages with a peak in their voice, like it's something special. And I have a rear entry garage, and I love it. It keeps me from parking on the street, I pull it in the back, I go into my house, everything is so cool. Really a neat little deal. My question for you tonight is what plans do we have to maintain what I guess is going to be the alley behind those rear entry garages? Because I can tell you about my rear entry garage, and my alley is constantly potholed. When we call to report it, yes, they are filled. The drainage doesn't drain the way it's supposed to. There's been construction, there's been patches, the patches block the drainage. The water sits. The water sits, it seeps into the street, it deteriorates the street. The alley, which really isn't a street, I guess, isn't crack sealed as far as I can tell. I've never seen crack sealing. I can't see any evidence of crack sealing. So we're like second-class citizens. You know, the front of the house gets taken care of, but the back does not. And if we're going to have this nice little project, and it looks really cute, we have to start thinking about treating houses with rear entry garages as though those alleys are streets. Because right now I got water, I got grass growing in cracks, I got grass growing over the street so it's not as wide as it's supposed to be. And I don't think that's the vision we have for this part of town. So if we can start thinking about how we're going to address that, and maybe include the rest of us in that at the same time, that would be really sweet. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hubbard. Anyone else? Mr. Vaughan.
Mr. Mayor, yes, same comments, even more emphasized. That is, the current proposal represents a loss since what we'll call the current zoning map on the city website, C2 retail and also C3 commercial services. And I assume that item number 10 on the master plan, that is that mixed-use building is no longer applicable. Also, if I look at Mike's presentation to council from last fall, I see row houses that are quite a bit different in structure than what has been presented tonight. And the final comment again is, if this is an aviation district development type thing, would like to make sure the aviation district entities and then make sure the infrastructure, roads, sewers, water, and so forth are taken care of for any development that occurs in there. But the principal concern in this particular area is the loss of commercial, particularly retail. And, you know, essentially the ice cream stand for the kids to come down to the aviation park or the cupcake shop for kids to get cupcakes down there. Essentially, it's a far cry from the mixed-use building proposed. So thank you very much for your time.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor. I just wanted, my name is Judge Michelle Garcia, and I live at 405 East Lindbergh. And my question to y'all is, what is gonna happen with the residential houses in that area? I do know that Lindbergh, some of the houses have already been bought out, and we are the remaining last few that are left on that street. And I know this aviation district project is right around the corner, it's right on Wright Street. So my question is, what is going to happen to the residents? Are we going to get bought out? We've been told time and time again that we are, then we're not, then we are, and it's a base issue, it's a UC issue. So that's just my concern is, what is the future of the residents on those streets? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your input. Anyone else? Okay, so it is now 7:38. And I'll close the public hearing. We'll hear from council in a little bit on this. So those are the two developments that have been planned and that we're going to be acting on in a little while. So the next item is our consent agenda, which is tab A. And the only item that's on the consent agenda this evening is the minutes of our Tuesday, April 2nd regular meeting. So I do need a motion on consent agenda. Move to approve.
Second.
Fitzpatrick, discussion. All right, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Buck?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman? Aye. Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. We have two action items, item number 8 there, that's tab B, tab C. We'll go through those now, and and then we'll take a short recess after that. So first on is tab D, which is resolution 966, 2024-6, Daniels and Daniels Storefront Improvement. It's a resolution authorizing a project which will facilitate promotion and development of new or expanded commercial development, and which was approved by the Board of Directors of the University City Economic Development Corporation on 11 April 2024, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor. You remember Roy and Fran Daniels. They were before you just a couple of meetings ago. They got the conditional use permit to put their real estate office right over here on Patrick Road in the former office building. They made applications to the Economic Development Corporation for assistance with their signage at their new location. They are proposing to spend $5,400 on that new sign. The EDC board agreed to reimburse them $3,000. And the resolution that you have before that is approving the Economic Development Corporation's action to grant that storefront improvement.
Move to approve. Motion made by Goolsby. So second. Second by Councilmember Vaughan. Further discussion, anyone? Yes, Ms. Bulman.
I just have one question. There are 3 businesses that you guys, we just signed for. A resident just asked, are all 3 businesses going to each have their own signs? Not that they use these people, but just in general, are they going to have 3 different signs for each one of those 3 businesses? Or are they possibly thinking about a marquee of all 3 signs?
So this is
Did
a
that make
wall
sense?
sign on the side of the building. It's
Okay.
not a pole sign.
Oh.
It's on the wall.
Okay.
And then if you remember, one of the businesses was just using it as an office.
Oh, yeah.
For people who are passing through, so I'm going to assume they're not going to have a sign.
Okay.
The other business, what was the other?
A farmer. Farmers will be on the left.
Farmers Insurance will be on the left-hand side, and I believe it's a wall sign as well.
Oh,
I haven't seen the farmers, have you?
No, they haven't applied yet, but there's going to be a monument sign that's existing, and they're going to put placards up.
That's all I had. That was it. Just someone asked, so I thought I'd ask.
Good question.
Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion and a second, so if there's no other discussion, I'll call for the vote then, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We'll move on to tab number C, which is resolution number 971-2024. It's a resolution of the City Council of University City, Texas, authorizing and approving projects and expenditures related to promoting new and expanded business development by the University City Economic Corporation and other matters in connection thereof.
Thank you, Mayor. We have talked a couple times about the EDC's improvement on Kitty Hawk Road, where the Walmart entrance is, widening that to provide for some additional turn lane traffic, and then to put in the roundabout to smooth out the traffic pattern. So the EDC posted their legal notice, had their required public hearing to issue $5.3 million in bonds, 15-year payment plan callable in 10 years. If you remember correctly, we're going to have the joint EDC City Council meeting on your May 21st meeting, and that is to approve or lock in an interest rate. And then if that all goes through, then the bonds will be delivered, proceeds will be delivered on June 18th of 2024. So there's just a couple of things that are different about these bonds than some previous EDC bonds that you're used to seeing. First of it is the repayment plan. So in the past, the EDC is always what we have called a level repayment plan. And if you think about that in terms of your own house, you pay the same amount every month. And so that option was not available to the EDC in this one, and I'm going to explain why. They have some outstanding bonds. One of them was one that they issued in 2016. Those are going to be paid off in 2 years. So what the EDC decided to do for this particular bond is do what's called a wraparound. And that basically means for the first 2 years, they make slightly lower payments. And then once the other bonds are paid off, then their bond payments become a little bit higher. So they're proposing that to be different for this one. The other thing that is different for these bonds has to do with the sale of the bonds themselves. So in the past, we've always done private placement with banks. In other words, we go through and say banks, and we say, we're going to issue these bonds, give us a private quote on the interest rates and the terms, and then we take the lowest bidder. Well, with a lot of things that happened in California and with tech companies and other things, banks are a little bit shyer about doing private sales now. And they're not quite as willing to do the purchase of tax-exempt bonds. And so for this particular bond issue, we had to do what is called an open market sale. In other words, it goes out there on the wide market, excuse me, people will bid on it, and they will give us what they think their interest rate will be. So on a open market, the standard call feature is a 10-year. And what we mean by call feature is if we want to pay it off early, we can't do it until we're past the 10th year. And so what this does is it allows the EDC to have the standard 10-year call, but it also helps them attain a lower interest rate. And so Mr. Vaughan had asked the question about a shorter call period or a callable at any time rate option. And Mr. Quiroga did look into that. And if we did a callable at any time, his preliminary estimate would be that the EDC would be paying $850,000 additional interest if they did a callable at any time. If it was at a 5-year callable, it would be about a $400,000 extra interest for the EDC to pay off the bonds. So the EDC and Mr. Quiroga are recommending that we stay with the open market and that we stay with the typical bond of 10 years. And again, we don't know the interest rate because it hasn't gone out for market. So Clay Binford is here, and yes, he's your bond counsel in case anything you want to add in. I don't. Okay.
I think we're good.
Sorry.
No, it's fantastic. I'm here for any questions that anybody might have. That was a great explanation.
All right, well, let me open it up for discussion of the council, and if they have any further,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for you, sir. The higher interest rate that we would end up paying with the call at any time or at the 5-year mark, that assumes that we would go the full length of the repayment period as opposed to exercising our option to pay them off early.
That's correct.
So ultimately, and I'm not advocating for one way or the other, I just want to make sure that I understand what we're talking about here, that we could theoretically save money if we paid it off early because we're making that principal payment, just like if I come into a large sum of money and I pay off my mortgage early, I save all of that money that I would have paid in interest over the remaining period of the loan. But because we put that clause in there of our ability to be able to pay it off early, we have to pay the higher interest rate, and your figures, or the figures that Ms. Turner quoted, assume that we pay that we put that option in there, but that we go the entire length of the payment period. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. Another way to look at it is to think of it this way. In the open market context, the market assumes a 10-year par call. That means that you can pay the bonds off at par at 10 years. Less than that, the market starts charging you for a premium for an option. If you don't use the option, you've spent money unnecessarily. So the reason we look for something, you're correct. The differences are assuming that you go through final maturity and you never exercise the option. But what is the likelihood that you are going to have a source of repayment of that money early over the entire amortization period of the bonds? And unless you have some instance or an event that you are trying to plan for where it would justify paying for an option at some shorter duration, you're going to sell property or you have some big influx coming in, the recommendation for your financial advisor is to typically take the 10-year call. So that's why the recommendation came from Mr. Quiroga. But yes, you are correct. That is the assumption and how you come to those different values at different periods of time.
My thought is, as we proceed with the aviation master plan, the revitalization, and the EDC has been acquiring a significant number of properties in that area, eventually we're going to sell those properties and we will realize a significant windfall. While Universal City doesn't have a long-lost aunt who is going to mysteriously leave us in her will and get us a whole bunch of money to pay this off, we do have a lot of properties in the aviation district that we will eventually be selling that the EDC owns that will generate a significant income to Universal City. Is there a reason that the EDC could not, through the sale of those properties as part of the development plan, use the revenue generated by that to repay these bonds at the earlier time frame if we were to execute that option.
We're getting into some pretty complex issues that I'll try to keep as simple as I can. The reason to have a call option doesn't mean you can just, and wait for the call date, doesn't mean that you can't necessarily pay the bonds off early. State law would allow us to take proceeds from some source, let's assume it is a benevolent hand, and they give us money in year 5. We could take that money and put it into what's called a defeasance escrow, and we could invest that money at some interest rate up to the rate that we pay on the bonds. And we can then point to that escrow agreement instead of our sales tax pledge, and those bonds are discharged for purposes of the EDC. The investors would then look to that escrow as the sole source of payment until the call date of 10 years. Now, under the current interest rate environment on short-term investments, because of the inversion of the yield curve, meaning that the short-term interest rates are higher than long-term rates, you can achieve positive savings in an escrow fund where we could actually invest that money today and earn enough to pay the interest on the bonds until the 10-year call date. Will that still be true in year 5? I don't know the answer to that. Will it still be true at the point in time you're going to sell that property? Don't know. But I can tell you that that option is a state law option available to all political subdivisions. So if you do have that windfall of cash, you have the opportunity to defease your debt. Now, the call feature, depending on the time, up to 10 years, you're subject to whatever you can earn on that money versus what you owe on the debt, which could provide a delta and a potential loss. Is that going to be $400,000 or less? Is that going to be $800,000 or less? Who knows? But there are mechanisms to utilize those windfalls to pay for debt somewhere across the amortization schedule between now and final maturity.
So to use the house mortgage analogy, if I'm not allowed to pay off my mortgage early because of the contract I signed with the bank, but I do come into that windfall of cash, and my mortgage is 5%, and I can find a savings account where I can invest that money at 5%, essentially it becomes a wash because I'm earning the money here, paying the money over here, and eventually it zeroes out.
Correct.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
And then I'll talk about it maybe from the economic development side. Thank you.
Sure.
Is that, remember, the ED's responsibility is for economic development, particularly in the business areas. And while they have bought property, and yes, at some point, we don't know what that is, they will sell property. The question is do you want them to use that to pay off bonds, or do you want them to actually put that back into your economic development projects and bring more projects and better projects and other improvements into your economic development areas? That's the wash.
Yes, ma'am, and I just wanted to make sure that we had explored the options and so that we have thoroughly dug into this to go, okay, now, rather than just like, okay, well, we're not going to do it that way. Let's talk about why we're not going to do it that way so that everybody's convinced up here that we're doing the right thing for Universal City. Yeah, thank you.
Very good. You bring up a lot of great points here, listening intently. One thing you said is if we use that option and you're able to invest that money, you can't, you're restricted on the rate that you can earn.
Yes.
Can you explain that to me, please?
Sure. So you were issuing tax-exempt debt. Tax-exempt debt means that in the hands of the investor, the interest income received on that bond is not subject to federal income taxation. The Internal Revenue Service views that as a local subsidy to local government because they're foregoing tax revenue that they otherwise would be entitled to. And the result of that subsidy is an investor is going to take a lower interest rate than what you would be able to go to a bank and personally receive because of the tax exemption of that interest. So the rule of thumb is 200 basis points difference. So a 6% market rate for a corporate at the exact same credit, the exact same term, a local government can receive 4%. And that's the subsidy that it receives because the investor doesn't pay interest. Now, the Internal Revenue Service does not give that money out without conditions and limitations that private entities cannot utilize the benefit of a local government entity finance piece of property. The other piece of that is the local government cannot earn what's called positive arbitrage. They will not let you look at a market situation similar to this, where you issue tax-exempt debt at 4%, and you take it down to your local bank and you buy a 6-month CD at 5.25%, and you pick up a spread of 1.25% in this hypothetical. Same thing if you were to set up what we call a defeasance escrow. So if you have a 4% interest rate on your bonds, then you can only earn up to 4% interest on those bonds. You can't create a positive spread. Now that's an oversimplification of a very complex issue. In the short term, for construction proceeds, you can earn some positive arbitrage and you can actually keep it if you spend the money within a very short period at the time of issuance of the bonds. There are 6, 12, and 18-month periods where you can keep varying amounts of positive arbitrage in a construction fund, but that's for Ms. Turner to look at when the bond proceeds come in and managing those versus your construction period. But those are the general limitations on tax-exempt debt, and that's not unique to an EDC. That's a school district, a city, anybody. All the rules are the same.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Goolsby.
Been doing this 10 years. Thank you so much. That was the best explanation I've ever heard. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
He's been practicing.
That's some discussion. Anyone else want to weigh in on this? So I would be glad to entertain a motion then.
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second. Buck, second by Councilmember Najarian. Any discussion further? All right, call for the vote then, please.
Councilmember Buck?
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Mayor Joseph Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman?
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
That motion passes. What I'd like to have right now is a short recess for probably, let's try to reconvene just a little after 8 o'clock. Somebody needs to go to the restroom that they can. I need to sign a couple of documents. So let me get these signed. I'll get to you so you can. So anyway, we'll be back in as quickly as we can right around 8 o'clock.
Excuse me. Yeah, that way we don't have to bring it up. But it's not, okay. It's interesting. I wonder if
Okay, let's go ahead and reconvene. It's 2 minutes after 8. Now to Reunion Development, tab D and E. Tab D is related to the future land use plan, and tab E is related to the zoning map and adopting of the final plan. And this is now an opportunity for council to discuss items with the city staff or the developers. So I'll open it up for discussion. Yes, Ms. Bulman.
Okay. A lot has come up for the residents with the reunion development. Since this is a large project with more apartments and buildings, it goes to say that when it's all done, it will impress on city services. Many residents are concerned about the impact on police, fire, and water. I know this project is a long project and 10 years down the road or so, but does police, fire, and water have a plan for the new demand? Be it hiring a police or firefighter every year for the next 10 years or buying more water, what does that look like?
Thank you. So one of the things that we've been doing for this project is for both police and fire is tracking their calls of service. And the way that we did that was for some in a specific area. So at 1604 and Pat Booker Road, we have a very large apartment complex. We have a couple of big shopping centers, and that's the area of our city that has the most traffic. So we took that apartment complex, and then we used the one right here, Sunrise Canyon. We used retail restaurants, North Lake Business, a big building out there, Rush Fun Park, BioLife Plaza, and then all of the Triangle Shopping Center. And so for 3 years, we went back and we looked at the calls for service for police and fire for those exact locations. And so we recognized that of all the police and fire calls, then combined, it equals 2% of their call volume. So we're anticipating, as time builds out, that this particular project will probably have a 2 or 3% increase on the call volume. Now, of course, when that happens, we're going to have to come back to City Council and say, look, we need to provide for more police and fire protection. Now, for police, that usually means more police officers on the streets, maybe a staff person, a sergeant or a lieutenant, but primarily more officers on the streets. The other thing for fire, now we've worked really hard at both police and fire over the last 4 years to ramp up their staffing today so that they have full staffing on all their shifts. For fire department, they still have that. They may need a firefighter Probably more likely what there would need to be a fire inspector. Because as the apartments and the other commercial buildings come on, they go in and they do their semi-annual inspections, test the fire alarm, test the sprinklers, check to make sure there's no blockage, passageways are open. That probably would be the main thing for them. The other item that we have that gets mixed in with police and fire is our emergency services contract that we have with Shirts EMS. So obviously there would be a call volume for them. Now, our contract with them is set up and based on the number of residents in the city. They don't make it based on the number of calls. So as our population went up with the Orchard Park subdivision on Kitty Hawk, our cost to them went up a little bit. As the Cibolo Trail gets added in, the cost is going to go up. As the living spaces get added in around the city, our cost will go up for that. And they give us advance notice on that so we can budget appropriately. So that's for the police and fire, unless Chief, you want to add anything?
Very well said.
And I hope you all know whether you've been through 12 or 24 or 2 or 3 budget cycles, the police and fire have no problem telling us what they need. So that's just my pitch for them. In terms of water, I'm going to just give a general and then I'll let Randy address that. I know the question comes up, do we have enough water? Because we're always in a drought. The drought situation is not universal city inflicted. It is put out by us by an outside agency. And we go on water restrictions whether we have 1 billion gallons of water extra or whether we have 100,000 gallons of water extra. It is the same for everybody. And so it's not that universal city is in a drought situation. It is that the Edwards Aquifer area is in a drought situation. And again, that's where the pumping is. So as a city, we have water that comes from the Edwards Aquifer, and that's where we get told that we have to do it. But we have alternate water sources as well. We have the Carrizo-Wilcox contract that we have. In addition to that, and then I'll let Randy get down into details. As you know, when we go through our budget process and you're looking at your water and your sewer CIP, there is a line item in there every year for water purchase and water leases. We never stop buying, we never stop leasing, we never stop looking. Water is today what gas was maybe 15 years ago, right? Everybody's looking for it and everybody wants it, and it can get very expensive. So we are constantly looking for water. We have 3 staff members at Public Works that are diligently seeking water sources and visiting people and touching base with people about buying or leasing their water. So with that, Randy, anything else you want to add?
Just know that my staff, we're actively pursuing the water every budget year. In the past, we've been successful. You as council, y'all supported us going after and finding the water. And there's only so many water rights that are out there. And here recently, it's kind of dried up. Sanitary River Authority through Roar Dog has been our agent. They have now shut down due to the fact that there is limited amount and really they didn't see a need to have an agent. So we become our own agents now. So we got feelers out there. We'll continue to search those water rights, try to buy them when we can. In the meantime, we have plenty of water to meet any demand when we're not in any stages. The only time that we really have to worry about stages when the Edwards puts us in stage 2, stage 3, or stage, even this last year, we were in stage 4 for a very long time. Currently, we're under stage 3 with the Edwards. And so we get a cut. Every day we're getting cut per our allotment what we can pump. So we have a good reserve that gets cut. So in the meantime, I run the Carrizo. So the Carrizo helps offset that. But what we'll be doing in the future, you'll see in the budget coming up, is that we'll put so much amount of acre feet out there to lease. There's plenty of water to lease to meet any cuts that are out there. And if I'm looking for water, I'm looking to absorb those cuts. That's really what I'm looking for, is absorb those cuts. But we do have plenty, if we're not in any stages, we have more than enough water to support this in the future. Yes, ma'am.
Can you say it one more time, just so everybody remembers? So the restrictions for the droughts are brought by who? Just say it one more time for me.
Edwards Aquifer Authority.
So they say you guys have to restrict, but it's not the city.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make that clear for everyone watching.
And all that,
Sure, right?
you're gonna have, I'm having to revise our drought management plan, and that is a reason why TCQ and the Edwards, we have to bring that to you. So you're gonna have that coming up to re-adopt for us. And so, because that's one of the things that we have to resubmit to TCQ.
So we'll be looking at that plan. The other thing I want to mention with a lot of the projects that we have coming along on 1604 and, behind Walmart and everything, one of the items that we are planning for is, or have you already brought the reused water under those 1604?
It's in
So
the reunion
we
chart.
have two reused water sources. We have the one on this side, which is from CCMA, and we use that at the golf course and a few other locations. Then on the other side of 1604, we have the San Antonio River Authority. We also have an abundance of reused water with them. And so we have a pipeline from them into our city, goes out to the college, which also uses reused water for all of its outside irrigation and landscaping. And maybe it's chiller too. I don't know if they use reuse.
Yes, they use
in
it for the
their chiller. And so we have brought that under 1604. As we begin developing the projects along 1604, we will put easements in for reused water line so that we can pull that into these other developments. And they have the option of tapping on as a retail customer and using reused water for outside watering.
And currently, I'll add that with not only are we serving the college with reused water for their outdoor watering, we also, Cimarron Park, Impala Park, Remington Park, all have reused water already. And so we brought it across 1604, and our plan is to take it to all, eventually my master plan is to take it to all our parks for outdoor watering. And I'm pursuing grants for that project.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding the police and fire responses, have we engaged with Converse and or Live Oak because of our cooperative response agreements that we have with them? Because given the location of the reunion project, they might be able to get there faster than we can. Are we engaging with them?
Well, we have a standing mutual aid agreement with all of our ACOG partners to assist if we ever need them, and vice versa, of course. But I don't think that we'll be impacted to the extent that Congress would respond that far into our city. That's from their border. They will respond. I'm saying I don't think that they will be beating us to it unless we're just tied up on a call and we revert to our regular mutual aid agreements, where they would come and hold it down until we got there. But yes, sir. For this specific project, no, because we have a standing agreement that they'll do that regardless of what we need, whether this project went forward or not. If we need Converse, they're coming. If we need Live Oak, they're coming. If we need Shirts, they're coming. But good question.
Same with fire as well, sir.
Mr. Goolsby. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As far as the loss of the commercial real estate going to residential, is my understanding that basically the property values of this residential far outweigh what you would have gained because in tax revenue, far outweigh what you would have gained in the retail side of this.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, because it didn't make sense.
The loss of commercial. You sound like my wife. Kids.
She asked me to say that.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to be in the line of fire here.
So changing the zoning from commercial.
Open space to commercial.
Yeah, and then but now we're putting apartments and residential.
So apartments are considered commercial property, just so we understand that. Any rental property is considered commercial. It's not taxed like your individual house. It's taxed at the commercial rate. It's valued at the commercial rate. So all that property out there, except for the open space, has a commercial zoning. And you have to remember this is under a PUD. Even when you build apartments, they're built under the building code for commercial buildings. They're not built under the residential code. And I believe when we charge the water and sewer fees, they are billed at the commercial rates and not at the residential rates.
Thank you, Ms. Ware. Anyone else before we? Mr. Burke?
Thank you. I just want to clarify, even though they are being taxed at the commercial rate, these are still residents of Universal City that are paying those property taxes indirectly through their rent to the apartment. I think the comments that we've been hearing recently is not apples and oranges necessarily, but rather that we're talking about retail space that would bring in sales tax that would offset the requirement for everybody to have to pay those property taxes in the first place. So I think the question should be, and my question is, how long have we been sitting on this property? How long have we been looking to develop it for anything? I agree, I would love that to be retail space. I would love to be able to put an IKEA or a Costco or a whatever in there so that we can generate some of that revenue that would go towards increasing our sales tax revenue, that would go towards offsetting a lot of the property taxes. But it's my understanding, the reality is, we've had this on the market for years, and we haven't found anybody that is willing to move in there as a commercial retail space. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're correct, but that happened even before we owned the property. So the gentleman who originally owned the property, at least the one that I know of, I mean, obviously it's been vacant forever, right? He had offers to sell the property. It was for a flea market, and he did not sell it. And we were very thankful for doing that, because we really didn't want all of this land to go for a big flea market. And it was at that time that the city kind of stepped in and said, hey, maybe we should start thinking long-term and garner control of that property. And so we went out with the bonds, which I believe was in 2007. 2007, the bonds were issued for the purchase of that property and a lot of other projects throughout the city. We bought the property with the intent of putting a regional sports complex on there. How many offers did we get? None. So that, in that regard, you are correct. But, you know, baseball fields is not an IKEA either, or a football field is not, and neither is a soccer. So under the PUD plan, what we've tried to do is maximize what we can consider commercial property, because remember, part of the thing about being a commercial property is access and visibility. And so the property where the apartments are going are not necessarily visible enough unless you build an entire shopping center like Rolling Oaks Mall or something of that nature. With all of its vacancies in it. And so what you have to do is there has to be a balance or a mix between residential and commercial, which is why we implemented several years back the planned unit development anyway, and so that we can get a multitude of uses in there to make the project viable for the city and the developer, short-term, long-term. So that's why it's critical when we have the PUD plan and you get to it, that you understand the components that are in it and what is considered the parcels for retail along Loop 1604, where it's most important.
Yeah, I would have loved to have, or 2 years ago, I would have loved to have a developer come to us and say that they want to put in a huge whatever that was going to bring in for Universal City the type of revenue that Home Depot and Costco and IKEA bring in for our sister communities. The reality is, however, we're not getting those offers. So I'm happy to have the reunion development as a very good secondary alternative. Thank you.
I have kind of a twofold question that are very different. One of the things I wanted to point out, I had seen some comments or had some questions about coming in. This is a one-time windfall. And yes, when we sell the property, that will be a one-time, we're going to generate those funds. But ongoing, the property will be developed. And so it will, once it's fully developed, we will be taxing at a much higher rate than the current value of the land as it exists. And I think that that's a significant thing to remember. And I also know that, you know, you talked about public participation in your thing. And what that means is the city, we're going to have to bring some money to the table here to help develop this land. But we're doing it in conjunction with Reunion, who's also going to bring a significant investment into our community. And we're so grateful to have the belief that we're the right community for this development and this investment. So I think that that's an awesome kind of, acknowledgement of where we've come and that we are, we are ready for this. And I think that this will help our community in the long term really look at potentially providing property tax relief later by increased sales tax and, all of these things. I think this is a really great investment in our community. Randy, I'm going to call you out here specifically. I know we talked about, somebody brought up that there was 10 acres of parkland. How much parkland is still kind of in that lake area that's going to be developed? And then in looking at that in conjunction with potentially the open space that's designated throughout the project, knowing that some of that open space might not just be green space, it could be like a water playscape or something like that. Like, I don't want to misrepresent what could be done in the open spaces, but do you have any kind of designation of what kind of land percentage we're looking, our acreage?
I would say that the lake itself is 7.5 acres.
Okay. So
that we've always known. And so whether the
And that's
remaining.
and that's kind of factored into the overall, so, but there's, I want to say I know there's a good probably 10, if you include the lake in that general area. But then there's going to be the linear park aspect where it's going to lead towards the Walmart general area there. So there's going to be a little bit of where you have the nucleus where you can come to the park itself, but then you're going to have the features of the walking trails along that new roadway that we'll be putting through there. So.
And the walking trails are going to be designated as bike accessible as well as.
Correct. We're planning for a 10-foot walk.
Yeah,
okay.
the 10-foot shared use path that Michael talked about, that's public areas. Anybody can use it, whether you live there, work there, or you're just passing through, or you're stopping and buying coffee and you want to walk. I also want to point out, just so everybody is clear on this, when we looked at the reunion site plan and we had the 2 open spaces, those are not public open space. Those are private open space open to the public. For instance, make sure I say this right, between phases 2 and 4, which were like the apartments, and the one where they had the senior living, they had a big green belt in there. So that is not owned by the city. It's a private development, but it's open to the public at all times. So I just want to make sure that we have some understanding of that. Did I say that correctly?
I think we're clear on that. Okay, good. All right. Anyone else? All right, so is there any specific language that we need to use now on these?
Yes, thank
We
you.
have to do these 2 separately, right? We have
So-
D first on the flow.
Yes.
Okay.
We have put a packet of, before you, if you're going to make the motion, if you would be so kind as to read it. 1, so Maribel can get it into the minutes, and 2, you can give all of the conditions correctly.
Would you like it at single speed or double speed?
Whatever turns you on.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve the FLUP, the Future Land Use Plan, as part of PC 602, in parentheses, ZC 253. After conducting a public hearing on the request for an amendment to the future land use plan for the 2 tracts combined totaling an approximately 43-acre larger tract located primarily between East Loop 1604 North, Access Road, and Universal City Boulevard, and receiving the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, City Council has considered the request and moves to approve PC 602, ZC 253, and the amendment to the future land use plan from HC Highway Commercial and OS Open Space to HC Highway Commercial, HDR high density residential, and open space for the subject property with the following conditions. 1, staff approval of outstanding PUD final plan comments. 2, staff approval of outstanding master development agreement items. 3, city council approval of the zone change from OS open space to C4 general commercial to PUD 2024-101 district. 4, the city council approval of the PUD final plan. 5, city council approval of the resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement for the 33-acre tract owned by the city. 6.
Where are you? Are you on tab D? Okay, just want to make sure, thank you. You're on 6.
Somebody push the play button. Oh, here we go. 6, city council approval of the EDC resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement of the 9.987 acre tract owned by the EDC. 7, planning and zoning commission approval of the final plat of subdivision within 2 years of PUD final plan approval by city council. Second.
Thank you for your motion.
You read the next one.
Okay, we're acting on tab D. We won't have to do that again, but
Well, that was just for the fluff. Then we have to do the zoning plan and the PUD.
understand. So this is for the flub. So there's the motion, there's a second. Any other discussion? All right, call for the vote then.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck,
Oh, aye.
Councilmember Najarian,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby,
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman,
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Recuse.
Okay, that motion passes. Then tab number E is basically the same item, except it's related to the zoning map and adopting a PUD final plan. So that particular motion that we had, we need just to be modified, so it's related to the zoning and the PUD.
Mr. Mayor?
That's Mr. Najarian.
254, correct? Yes. Yes, Mr. Mayor, after conducting a public hearing on a request for a zone change for the two tracts combined totaling approximately 43 acres larger tract located primarily between East Loop 1604 North Access Road and Universal City Boulevard, and receiving the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, City Council has considered the request and moves to approve PC 603 ZC 254 and the zone change from OS Open Space and C4 General Commercial to PUD 2024-101 District for the subject property with the following conditions. 1, staff approval of outstanding PUD final plan comments. 2, staff approval for outstanding master development agreement items. 3, City Council approval for the fluff amendment from HC Highway Commercial and OS Open Space to HC Highway Commercial, HDR High Density and Residential, and OS Open Space. 4, City Council approval of the PUD final plan. 5, City Council approval of the resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement for the 33-acre tract owned by the city. 6, City Council approval of the EDC resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement for the 9.987 acre tract owned by the EDC. And 7, Planning and Zoning Commission approval of the final plat of subdivision within 2 years of PUD final plan approval by City Council.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, call for that motion, please.
Councilmember Najarian,
Aye.
Councilmember Buck,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby,
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman,
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Recuse.
Okay, that motion passes. That's on the zone change. Now, what about the one on the PUD preliminary and final?
Sir, this is where you will be taking the city council into executive session on page 3 of your agenda, no tab 2.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do now is go into an executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551-072 regarding the purchase and value of real property and deliberation in open session that have a detrimental effect on the position of the corporation in negotiations with a third party and for attorney consultation pursuant to section 551-071 S2 regarding, in this case, 43 acres of vacant undeveloped property owned by the city of Universal City, Texas, 33.3 acres in the Economic Development Corporation, 9.994 acres located at 1604 and Bird Boulevard. So we'll go into executive session and be back as quickly as we can. So it is now 8:30.
We're going to talk about it, and we're going to come back out here and then we'll have to read
Oh, I mean, I can, I don't mind. Just trying to figure out the plan.
We're going to get through this one right now.
I wasn't good enough. This is a great stuff. Yeah, you did.
I was joking. Thank you for everybody for sticking around. It's 10:79. We'll reopen the meeting. Okay? So at 10 minutes after 9, we're back in open session. And just for an explanation, some of you that may not know for sure, When we go into executive session, those are items that we cannot discuss when we come back out unless there's a specific action that might be warranted. So just for your clarification, it's something that is usually for the education of the council. And so there are sometimes actions taken, other times there are not. So this evening, we had a pretty lengthy session. Sorry, but it was necessary for us to go into that session.
Yeah, we know you got wine and cigars back there.
Maybe not cigars. Or,
Oh, he didn't deny the wine.
So,
Mr. Mayor?
Our next is to work on the PUD, correct? Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion on the PUD preliminary and final plans, PC 604, DC 255, after conducting a public hearing on the request for approval of PUD preliminary and final plans, and receiving the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, City Council has considered the request and moves to approve PC 604 ZC 255 and the associated PUD preliminary and final plans and PUD ordinances 581-YPUD-2024-101 for the 2 tracks combined totaling an approximately 43-acre larger tract located preliminary between East Loop 1604 North Access Road and Universal City Boulevard with the following conditions. 1, staff approval of outstanding PUD final plan comments. 2, staff approval of outstanding master development agreement items. 3, city council approval of the FLUP amendment from HC Highway Commercial and OS Open Space to HC Highway Commercial, HDR High Density Residential, and OS Open Space. 4, City Council approval of the zone change from OS Open Space and C4 General Commercial to PUD 2024-101 District. 5, City Council approval of the resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement for the 33-acre tract owned by the city. 6, City Council approval of the EDC resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement for the 9.987 acre tract owned by the EDC. And 7, Planning and Zoning Commission approval of the final plat of subdivision within 2 years of PUD final plat approval by City Council.
Okay, there's a motion to a second. Second by Representative Goolsby. Discussion further, anyone? Matter? All right, call for the vote then, please.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Okay, that motion passes. So we'll move on now to tab number F, the next item on our agenda, which is Ordinance 581 AA 2024, an ordinance of the City Council, University City, Texas, approving an agreement with Reunion Development Partners LLC, program economic development incentives for public project enhancements, development standards, emergency service access, and correlated infrastructure relating to the development of Reunion Development in Universal City, and establishing a savings clause and an effective date.
Motion to approve master development agreement. After conducting a public hearing on the request for approval of the PUD preliminary and final plans and receiving the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, City Council has considered the request to move to a preliminarily approved Ordinance 581-AA-2024 pending agreement on critical terms and final legal review regarding the approximately 43-acre tract that is located primarily between East Loop 1604 North Access Road and Universal City Boulevard with the following conditions. 1, staff approval of outstanding PUD final plan comments. 2, City Council approval of the FLUP amendment from HC High Commercial and OS Open Space to HC Highway Commercial, HDR High Density Residential, and OS Open Space. 3, City Council approval of the zone change from OS Open Space and C4 General Commercial to PUD 2024-101 District. City Council approval of the resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement for the 33-acre tract owned by the city. 5, City Council approval of the EDC resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement for the 9.987 acre tract owned by the EDC. 6, Planning and Zoning Commission approval of the final plat of subdivision within 2 years of PUD final plan approval by City Council.
Second. There's a motion, and now we have a second by Member Goolsby. Any further discussion, anyone? All right, call for that vote, please.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Recuse.
Okay, motion passes. Now, item, we'll move on to tab number 8. It's resolution 970-B-2024. Resolution of the City of Universal City authorizing the sale of real property located at 11514 East Loop, 1604 North, Universal City, Texas, by the Universal City Economic Development Corporation for projects to promote new or expanded business development.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase and sale agreement of city-owned property after conducting a public hearing on the request for approval of the PUD preliminary and final plans and receiving Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation. City Council has considered the request and moves to preliminary approve resolution number 970A-2024 pending agreement on critical terms and a final legal review for the city-owned tract totaling approximately 33 acres located primarily between East Loop 1604 North Access Road and Universal City Boulevard with the following conditions. 1, staff approval of outstanding PUD final plan comments. 2, staff approval of outstanding master development agreement items. 3, City Council approval of the club amendment HC Highway Commercial and OS Open Space to HC Highway Commercial, HDR High Density Residential, and OS Open Space. 4, City Council approval of the zone change from OS Open Space and C4 General Commercial to PUD 2024-101 District. 5, City Council approval of the EDC resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement for the 9.987 acre tract owned by the EDC. And 6, Planning and Zoning Commission approval of the final plat of subdivision within 2 years of the PUD final plan approval by City Council.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. And second by Councilmember Bulman. Discussion.
You should have preliminarily seconded that.
Thank you. I got it every time but once, for
I got it
God's
for you.
sake. Thank you. You
Everything's
deserve
good.
it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, call for the vote, please, Member Buck.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Recuse.
Okay, that motion passes as well. Let's see, where are we on the agenda right now? It's getting late, Dan, right?
Purchase and sale of the EDC owned property.
Oh, we thought you were doing.
Oh, resolution 970B 2024. Right, okay, that's tab H. That's the resolution, and this is 970B 2024. Again, the real property located at 11514 East Loop 1604 by the EDC Corporation for projects to promote new or expanded business development.
Mr. Mayor, motion to approve purchase and sale agreement, EDC owned property. After conducting a public hearing and request for approval of the PUD preliminary and final plans and receiving the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, City Council has considered the request and moved to preliminarily approve resolution number 970-B-2024 pending agreement on critical terms and final legal review for the EDC owned tract totaling approximately 10 acres located primarily between East Loop 1604 North Access Road and Universal City Boulevard with the following conditions. Staff approval of outstanding PUD final plans comments. 2, staff approval of outstanding master development agreement items. 3, City Council approval of the FLUP amendment from HC Highway Commercial and OS Open Space to HC Highway Commercial, HDR High Density Residential, and OS Open Space. 4, City Council approval of the zone change from OS Open Space and C4 General Commercial to PUD 2024-101 District. 5, City Council approval of the resolution approving
the purchase and sale agreement for the 33-acre tract owned by the city, and 6, Planning and Zoning Commission approval of the final plat of subdivision within 2 years of PUD final plan approval by City Council.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Bulman. Discussion further, anyone? All right, call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Recuse.
That motion passes also. Thank you very much. Long process, but that's the way it has to be done, the way the law reads. This is the way we had to conduct it. So that's all the items related to the reunion project. Now we'll go to tab I, which is I and J, which are the Wright Rowhomes project. So first one is tab I, an ordinance which is to change amending the future land use plan to change land use designation property located at 604 Bowie Street and 206-218 Wright Boulevard from MDR medium density residential to high density residential, providing for severability and establishing an effective date. Now it's council's chance to talk about this item that was covered in the public hearings. Yes, Mr.
Thank you, Pro Tem. I'm just making sure that the area behind this, the alleyway, that is the private owned drive, right? And this is where the property maintenance code kind of steps in on that one, right?
Correct. So correct record, this is not an alley behind this property. It's privately owned where they're going to be driving. So, to answer your question, code compliance would come into a
Thank you.
private property.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So it's not an alley. Let me repeat that.
Is your mic on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not an
I'm
alley.
I'm wanting to.
Thank you. I don't know if people can hear, you know, so.
He made it sound so much better than you.
Okay,
I'm done. Thank you, sir.
Phil?
So just to beat that dead horse, will there be an HOA involved, or who's responsible for maintaining that open space in the back?
I'm going to be responsible for all the maintenance and everything there as well. So landscaping, all that. That's.
And so it's a single owner, so there will not be an HOA or a POA. As part of the planning process, we're going to designate that area where the common open space as probably a 900 lot, so it's in perpetuity. So it can't. So if he sells it, someone buys the property from him and then wants to do something else with that common space, they won't be able to. They'll go through a process through you in order to do that.
Okay, so dumb it down for me. It's not going to be individual parcels like cut up to where you could sell an individual unit if you wanted in the future.
If they want to do that at some point in the future, they would have to come back and do a condo plat, more than likely.
Yeah. Thanks, Phil. Anyone else? All right, so I do need, yes, Mr. Buck?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What backs up to that common space? So you have the street, you have the front of it, you have the houses, the alley, the parking area, and that green space. What's on the other side of that?
The green space, that's where the property line is. Right behind us is there's an Airbnb home, and then there's another project that's going up there. So it's but.
Is there going to be a fence?
Yes, I'm actually doing it now.
Okay.
Yeah, so the triplex that was approved last year, that's at the corner behind him.
The Mr. Wynn process,
Yes.
The Mr. Wynn.
Yes.
Like chop and deed.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, good, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Beck?
I was just I know we had a resident that asked the question on what would this do to other houses in the area. You have bought these lots with the vision of building and developing the property this way. This is your vision, correct?
Correct. Well, influenced by Michael. I mean, I was going to do something different, and then when he explained to me what the vision was, if you will, I was like, I can do that. And then everything worked out, and I ended up buying this property, and that property. So
okay,
it worked out.
So Ms. Garcia, she brought up 405 Lindbergh. So I believe she was talking about the properties on Lindbergh that Randolph was buying up.
Okay, I wondered about that.
I think she might have been confusing the Randolph project for expanding their clear zone with the aviation district from the East Wright Homes. Two separate issues.
Yeah, and I did speak with her, and so that is the case.
Okay, perfect. I wanted to make sure that her concerns were addressed because I felt like they were separate from this development. Thank you.
Anyone else? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve?
Oh, well, wait, motion, okay, I'm gonna motion to approve FLUP PC 605 ZC 256 after conducting a public hearing on the request for an amendment to the future land use plan for the properties at the southeast corner of Bowie Drive and East Wright Boulevard with the common addresses of 604 Bowie Drive and 206-218 East Wright Boulevard, and receiving the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, City Council has considered, the request and moves to approve PC 605 ZC 256 and the amendment to the future land use plan from MDR, medium density residential, to HDR, high density residential for the subject property with following conditions. 1, staff approval of outstanding PUD final plan comments. 2, city council approval of the zone change from ROT Old Town Residential to PUD 2024-102 district. 3, city council approval of the PUD final plan. 4, planning and zoning commission approval of the final plat of the subdivision within 2 years of the PUD final plan approval by city council.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Bulman, second by Councilmember Rowhomes. Any further discussion? All right, call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. Let's move on tab number J. It's ordinance number 581, YPUD 102. It's ordinance to the City Council amending the zoning map of the City of Intermission City for approximately 0.717 acre property located at 604 Bowie Drive and 206-218 East Wright Boulevard. Rezoning said property from OT Old Town Residential District to PUD 2024-102 District, generally for high-density residential and related uses, adopting the PUD final plan related to PUD 2024-102, providing for severability, providing for the publication of the caption of this ordinance, and establishing an effective date.
Move to approve.
No, you're not getting out of it that easy.
Hold on.
I got this one.
There's 2 on here. Do you have to read both though?
Yeah.
Because they're 2 separate ordinances. Mr. Mayor, after conducting a public hearing on the request for a zone change for the properties located at the southeast corner of Bowie Drive and East Wright Boulevard with the common addresses of 604 Bowie Drive and 206-218 East Wright Boulevard, and receiving the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, City Council has considered the request and moves to approve PC 606, also known as ZC 257, and the zone change from ROT Old Town Residential to PUD 2024-102 district for the subject property with the following conditions. 1, staff approval of outstanding PUD final plan comments. 2, city council approval of the FLUP amendment from MDR medium density residential to HDR high density residential. 3, city council approval of the PUD final plan. And 4, planning and zoning commission approval of final plat of subdivision within 2 years of PUD final plan approval by city council.
There is a motion.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bulman. All right, any other discussion, everyone? All right, there we go. Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Motion passes. Sorry you had to wait so long, but one.
We have 3 more.
Okay,
We got one more.
Where's the next one?
This is the
The PUD final plan, yes.
Mayor, I'd like to make,
That's all part of tab J, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the PUD preliminary and final plans, PC 607, ZC 256, after conducting a...
No, 258.
258, sorry. After conducting a public hearing on the request for approval of the PUD preliminary and final plans, receiving the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, City Council has considered the request and moves to approve PC 607 ZC 258 and the associated PUD preliminary and final plans and the PUD Ordinance 581 YPUD 2024-102 for the properties of the southeast corner of Bowie Drive and East Wright Boulevard with the common addresses of 604 Bowie and 206-218 East Wright Boulevard with the following conditions. 1, staff approval of the outstanding PUD final plan comments. 2, city council approval for the FLUP amendment and the MDR medium density residential to the HDR high density residential. 3, city council approval for the zone change from ROT Old Town Residential to PUD 2024-102 District. And 4, Planning and Zoning Commission approval of the final plat of the subdivision within 2 years of the PUD final plan approval by city council.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Fitzpatrick, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby. Any further discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
That motion passes. Now it's complete. Okay, let's move on to tab K, Ordinance 307. Thank you. B-2024. It's an ordinance amending the requirements for vehicle wrecker/tow services, superseding Ordinance 307A 1989, amending Chapter 3-3, Article 11, Vehicle Wrecker Services in its entirety, providing for severability, setting an effective date, and amending the Universal City Code ordinance accordingly.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Bulman, second by Councilmember Vaughan. Any discussion? Call for the vote then, please.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Also aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Move on to tab number L. Approval of pay application number 2 invoice for the Ivy Lane Street Improvement Construction.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember. This is good, Vaughan. Second by Councilmember Bulman. Any discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to tab number F, which is bid acceptance. Tab number M, bid acceptance of the Kitty Hawk to Meadowland Drive sanitary sewer improvements.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
By Councilmember Bulman, second by Councilmember Buck. Discussion? All right, call for that vote,
Thank you
please.
for the letter putting this out.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Motion passes. We move on to tab number N. Ordinance number 352-K-2024, an ordinance amending certain sections of section 4-4-82, off-premises signs of the city code of ordinances to amend the allowed locations and other requirements of off-premises signs, providing severability, providing an effective date, and to amend the universal city codes accordingly. Okay, Michael, got this one?
All right. Okay. All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So we wanted to bring before you a proposed change to the sign code. Just to be clear, the sign code is not part of the zoning code. It's a separate code in its own. And we're proposing to amend the off-site premises sign section within the sign code, specifically for the aviation district. Okay, so one of the things that we've heard from current businesses is they would love to be able to advertise their businesses more, especially those that are not fronting Pat Booker Road, okay? And so what this ordinance essentially does, in a nutshell, it would allow for private businesses that are on Pat Booker only to strike an agreement with another physical business within the aviation district to post a sign on their property. Okay. There's some square footage maximums. In addition to private property owners being able to put up an off-premises sign for another business physically located within the aviation district, it would allow for the city and the EDC to potentially repurpose, for example, this sign and use it as directional signage, or to advert, for example, gather this way, food truck park that way, something else down that way, or potentially maybe a a community sign, an electronic messaging board. We're not sure, there's just possibilities, because the city, as you know, acquired that property at 302 Pat Booker Road, and as part of that, we thought that the sign was on that property. It's actually in the right of way, so we own it. And so we're able to potentially repurpose that sign for that purpose. This amendment to the sign code would allow us to do that. Okay. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. We did bring this to the EDC as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission for their feedback, and their feedback is incorporated into these changes.
Okay, let's open up the discussion.
So I have a question for you. So a lot of the residents' concern was just sign pollution. If it ends up being like every single one of those, I know this is like hypothetical, but if every single one of those businesses actually wanted to do that and another business agreed, which I don't find super likely, but I'm just saying in case that happens, that could end up potentially being like 6 signs in one very small section if one business took one from everyone. And so I love this idea, and I think this is awesome, like the marquee of everything. I think it's awesome. I just don't know what we do if pretend every single one of those 32 businesses wanted and got permission to put a sign out. Then we've given them the permission to do that.
So,
and so what do we do?
A physical business can only have one sign within the district itself.
But I think we said that was what, 32 signs? Like 32 businesses in total?
Well,
or no?
So for example, Gather, let's use an example. If Gather wanted to have an off-premises sign somewhere else in the aviation district, they would only be able to have it in one location.
But what if, but I thought it said in the packet, like there were 32 businesses.
32 square feet.
Okay, but it doesn't say how many businesses are in aviation to how many signs. Okay, I thought someone had that number, but
So,
okay.
I'll give another example. Let's say I'm Carrera Optical, you know, they have that kind of green space. Let's say they decided to put a pole sign in like this, and it ended up being, 4 feet by 8 feet, and they put in 4 slots. They could lease space out on their sign to 4 other businesses in the aviation district. So if those 4 businesses put one in on his property, they can't put one in anywhere else in the aviation district.
I kind of get what you're saying.
So that limits it. And so the properties along Pat Booker Road, and again, remember, only properties in the aviation district on Pat Booker Road would be able to lease sign space out to their fellow businesses. So that's not a lot of businesses on Pat Booker Road in that section.
Okay, so you're thinking more like marquee signs. Not every single business will put up like their own separate.
No.
That's what kind of people were thinking in their head, and then that would just be like 80 million signs if that was, okay. All right, I'm good, I'm done.
Mr. Vaughan.
I guess, didn't we talk at some point, or there was some master plan or wherever that we wanted more cohesive signage and wayfinding signs? So if we allow people to put up their own signs, are we just going to be tearing them down in the not too distant future and saying, no, we want it to be this more uniform sign, or are we?
Well, the city itself will be doing the standardization of signage when we do streetscaping, and so that'll be uniform and standardized. If the individual property owners actually follow through with this and put up a sign, it'll have to conform to this section of the sign code as well as the other sections of the sign code. So you could have different types of monument signs on Pat Booker that would not necessarily match the streetscaping theme that we would put in at a future date. So possibly. But the likelihood that you're going to have, Las Vegas here is so small because don't forget that property owners are going to want to maximize their space. And as we redevelop this district, we're trying to build a street wall. So that means bringing the buildings closer to the street. So you're going to have reduced space to actually put up a sign.
Well, did the EDC have any discussion, or is there any purpose in maybe saying maybe we should develop what the sign should look like, and then you can go build your sign subject to these kind of parameters before we do this ordinance?
Yeah, they didn't suggest that. That's something.
I think the branding idea and the wayfinding was more about standardizing the city's signs, but not necessarily indicating what's going to happen on private development. The sign ordinance has some parameters in there that the private owners will have to follow, but I think the standardization of the branding had more to do with the city signs the city street signs and the city lights and the signs that the city owns and things of that nature. I don't think it was meant for private development.
But to add to that, it probably would happen, is that they would request some assistance from the EDC as part of the Storefront Improvement Program, and then the EDC would weigh in and maybe establish some criteria.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Buck.
I want to make sure I understand this correctly. Each business along Pat Booker within the aviation district may install one sign that is a maximum of 32 square feet in area. Also, any any business not located along Pat Booker may only have one sign that they can negotiate with a business alongside Pat Booker.
Right.
If a business alongside Pat Booker, however, said, listen, we're going to divide that 32 square feet up into 4 smaller signs, I can get money, I can enter into an agreement with 4 other businesses that are not along Pat Booker? Okay.
Yeah, and then that would reduce the likelihood that you're going to have even more signs.
So if the I don't know if 7-Eleven or Carrera Optical, if they decided they wanted to put in a 32 square foot sign, they could advertise for 4 businesses that are not physically located along Pat Booker.
That are physically located in the aviation district.
Located within the aviation district, but not directly abutting Pat Booker.
No, it could be.
Could be another Pat Booker Road business, but if another Pat Booker Road business did it, they could only have one sign. They couldn't go to another business and advertise in their, lease another space from another business.
So since we use the Carrera Optical example, could Carrera Optical have a sign for their own business on the property as well as a 32 square foot sign?
That would be an on-premise.
That would be they already have a sign.
No, but I mean, can they have their own sign on their own property and have an off-premises sign 32 square feet in area for 4 other business, 4 other businesses?
So they took let's say they took one of the slots themselves.
Yes, ma'am.
And then they could put 3 under.
Okay.
That would be a mix of on-premise, off-premise signage.
Yeah, but more than likely they're not going to do that.
But they couldn't have their own. They couldn't have their own sign.
On top of the building.
Yeah.
And then they have the other pole sign.
And then they could also have a pole sign 32 square feet in area.
So let's clarify.
Thank you.
Carrera Optical, for example, they can have their wall sign, right? They can have a monument sign or a pole sign. If they did that, at the pole sign, they couldn't have or re-advertise on the off-premises sign that they would install.
Correct.
Okay. That off-premises sign that is on their property would have to advertise other businesses in the aviation district.
Yes.
But they could advertise if they struck a deal with Gather, or not Gather, but 7-Eleven, for example, then yeah, they could advertise on the 7-Eleven sign.
Okay.
But more than likely, that's really not going to happen.
I'm just trying to make sure that I understand what are the strict left and right limits.
The genesis was to help out some of those businesses, for example, the Screaming Chameleon, the food truck park, who wanted to advertise, they wanted to see the sign on Pat Booker.
Right.
It's because of our ordinance. Okay. So we're trying to accommodate some of the feedback we received from those businesses.
Very well, you've answered my questions. Thank you, Mike. Patrick.
There's not very many monument signs down there. Before somebody could just see this as a great opportunity and start putting up monument signs, each business, would they have to come and apply to do that, or could they just erect a monument sign?
No, they have to go through the building permit process.
Okay.
So they have to get a sign permit.
So, I mean, I'm trying to think of how many are down there, but seems like for monument signs specific, there wouldn't be very many that I can think of.
Correct. You're limited on the number of properties up and down Pat Booker Road. And then more than likely, as the aviation district revitalizes, you're going to have consolidation of lots, so you're going to have even fewer opportunities.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to weigh in? think we need a motion to.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, move to approve ordinance number 352-K-2024 regarding off-premises signs in Universal City.
There's the motion. Second by Councilmember Najarian. Further discussion? All right, call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Buck,
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby,
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman,
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. The no tab 1 accessory structure discussion. We're pulling that. We'll present that on our May 7th meeting. So we are going to move into another executive session. And this is one related to the property at 216 Pat Hooker Road. So it is 9:45. We'll go into executive session. We'll be back as quickly as we can. Thank you very much.
The glitter chair. Okay, everybody, it's 9:55. We'll reconvene now from executive session. And we'll move now to tab number 0. Resolution number 970-C-2024. Resolution of the City, Universal City authorizing the purchase of real property located at 216 Pat Hooker Road, Universal City, Texas by the Universal City Economic Development Corporation for projects to promote new or expanded business development.
Mr. Mayor, move for approval of resolution number 970-C-2024.
Second.
Motion made Councilmember Buck, second by Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby. Any further discussion, anyone? All right, call for the vote then, please.
Councilmember Buck,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby,
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman,
No.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian,
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
No.
Okay, that motion then passes at 4-2. And ladies and gentlemen, it is 9:56. Thank you. Thank you for sticking around. Appreciate it very much. This meeting is now adjourned.
Vaughan had the under, didn't you?
Not the record.
Sleep?
No, it need to be. No money up.
No money.
I'm gonna start placing bets. We should start.